Welcome back to another HTML and CSS tutorial. In this tutorial, we will create an animated login form using only HTML and CSS. This tutorial is perfect for beginners. We will cover everything you need to create an interactive and engaging login form, including creating input fields, buttons, input labels, and all other necessary elements. Additionally, we will add smooth animations to make the login form look great and be fun to use. So, without further ado, let's get started. First, let's start by setting the title tag in our index.html file. To style our page, we will create a style.css file in the root directory and link this CSS file within the head tag. Additionally, we will use box icons for our login form. These icons are easy to use and free. We can obtain the CDN link and place it under the head tag in our HTML file. Inside the body tag of our index.html file, we will place a section tag containing the entire HTML elements for the login form. Within the section tag, we will place a div element with the class main. Similarly, we will have a div with the class login, which will be the main container wrapping our login form. The h1 tag will represent the main heading for our login form. For creating forms, we will use the HTML form tag, which provides various attributes like action and method for sending the form to your email. Our login form will have basic input fields for email and password. Each input field will be wrapped inside a div with the class input wrapper, which will wrap the input field and icon. For the email input field, we will use the input type of text and give it a class named input field. Additionally, we will set the required attribute for this field and provide a label for the email field. The icon for the input field will be placed inside a span tag with the class icon. We will search for a user icon in the box icon and place it inside the span tag. With this, we have created our input field for email. To create a password field, let's follow the same steps we used for creating the email field. First, we'll create a div element with the class input wrapper. Inside this div, we will use the input type password for the password field. We will assign the class input field to this input and include the required attribute. Next, we'll create a label tag associated with the password input field. Additionally, we will use a span tag with the class icon to find a suitable icon in the box icon library and place it under the span tag. After setting up our input fields, we will move on to creating a div with the class forgot link. Inside this div, we will include an anchor tag that will link to the forgot password page. To allow form submission, we need to include a button. We will create a button with the class btn submit for this purpose. Once we have completed the form component, we will then add a link for the sign up page. Following the closing of the form element, we will create a div with the class sign up link. Within this div, we will include the text for signing up along with an anchor tag that will link to the sign up page. Now that we have completed our HTML, we can proceed to CSS. First, we will incorporate Google Fonts for our fonts. Google Fonts offer a wide range of font options, and for now we will use the Poppins font. Let's copy and paste the embedded link into our style.css file. Next, we will apply global selectors and pseudo elements. We'll set the box sizing to border box, margin to 0, and padding to 0. Following this, we will select the body tag and assign the font family as Poppins to ensure that the Poppins font is applied to the entire web page. We will also set the background image using its relative path. Similarly, for the anchor tag, we will remove the default underlining by setting the text decoration to none. We will also change its color to indigo blue and set the font weight to 600 for a bold appearance. For the heading 1 element, we will set the font size to 1.5 rem, font weight to 700, color to white, and text align to center, and the margin bottom will be 1.5 rem. The element with the class main will have its display property set to flex, allowing us to use flexbox properties for its child elements. We'll use justify content center to align the element horizontally and align item center to vertically align the element. We will also set the minimum height to 100% to occupy the full height of the browser. Moving on to the element with the class login, we will first set its position to relative. The padding for top and bottom will be 2.5 rem, while for left and right, it will be 1 rem. We will set a dark background color for this element. Additionally, we will apply a linear gradient that goes from left to right. The gradient will start with a semi-transparent purple color at 0% and transition to fully transparent at 100%. To achieve rounded corners for this element, we will assign a border radius of 0.5 rem. Now we will target the element with the class input wrapper, which wraps the input element and label. We will set the position to relative, display to flex, and flex wrap property to wrap, which will wrap elements to multiple lines if the element does not fit in a single line. The bottom margin will be 1.5 rem. Next, it's time to style our input field. First, we will set its font to Poppins and give it a font weight of 400. Padding on all sides will be 1 rem. The color will be white. Our input element will be styled with a 2-pixel solid transparent border on all sides. In addition, we will set a transition to ensure smooth animation effects. The input field will have a transparent background. We will remove the default outline for our input field, set the width to 100%, and for the rounded border, we will give it a border radius of 20 px. Next, for our input field, when the user clicks on a specific input field, we will change its border color to indigo blue. Moving on to the element with the class icon, the icon will be contained inside our input element. For this, we will set its position to absolute. The padding on the top and bottom will be 1 rem, while the padding on the left and right will be 1.5 rem. The color will be white. To align our icon to the right side of the input element, we will set the right property to 0. Now, let's target the label within the class input wrapper. We will set its position to absolute, the top property to 50%, which moves the element to the midpoint of the container's height, and the left property to 20 px, placing the element 20 pixels from the left of its container element. Likewise, we will set the translate y to -50%, which moves the element up by 50% of its own height, centering it vertically within the container. The color for our label will be white. For any changes to the element, we will set the transition duration to 0.3 seconds. To make mouse events non-interactive, we will set pointer events to none. Now that we have styled the components of the input, next we will be writing styles to animate the label when the input element is focused. With this CSS code, we will target the label which is the sibling of the input field when the input field is focused. Similarly, we will target the label element when our input field has valid content. First, we will set the top property to 0, which moves the label to the top of the containing element. Left set to 15 px, font size set to 14 px. When the label floats to the top, we do need to give it a background color. For this, we will use a dark shade background. Padding top and bottom will be 0, while left and right will be 5 px. The element with the class forgot link will be aligned to the right side. The margin for the top and bottom will be 1 rem, and for the left and right will be 0. To style our button element, we will first set the text align property to center and the font size to 1 rem to improve readability. The button will fill the entire width of its container with the width set to 100% and will add a padding of 10 pixels. To create a smooth transition effect when interacting with the button, we'll use the easeall 0.35's transition property. The text color will be white and we'll use the Poppins font for the button. The background color will be a shade of blue and we'll remove any default borders with the border property set to none. Finally, we'll set the cursor to a pointer. Next, when the button is hovered over, we will change its background color to a darker shade of blue. Moving on to the styling of the element with the class signup link, we will apply the following properties: text alignment to the center, white text color, and 20px of padding on the top and bottom with 0 padding on the left and right. Additionally, a 1 pixel border will be added at the bottom with a slightly transparent color to create a subtle separation. Now that we have finished styling the input fields, buttons, and other components of our main login form, we will proceed to create a stylish hover effect for when the user hovers over the main login section. To achieve this, we will target the pseudo element with the class login first. We will set the content property to an empty string. Then we'll calculate the width and height so that it covers half of the main login element plus an additional 10 pixels. The right and bottom properties will be set to -10 pixels, positioning the pseudo element slightly outside the boundaries of the parent element. Additionally, we'll set its position to absolute and the z-index to -2000 to place it far behind other elements. We'll also add a transition over 0.7 seconds. Finally, for the background, we'll create a linear gradient from purple on the left to pink on the right. Now that we have the beautiful border in place on the right and bottom sides, we need to target it when the user hovers over it. For this, we will simply set its width to 100% and height to 100%, creating a smooth visual effect as the gradient background expands to cover the entire content of the login section. In order to ensure that our login form is responsive, we need to make some adjustments using CSS. We'll use a media query to target screen sizes larger than 992 pixels. When it comes to the login element, we'll add padding of 2.5 rem on the top and bottom and 3 rem on the left and right. The element's width will be set to 40% of the viewport's width and will remove any margin on all sides. Finally, we have created an animated login form that is engaging, modern, and responsive. This form includes smooth animations that enhance the user experience and make the login process visually appealing and interactive. Our goal was to create a form that not only looks good but also improves usability and accessibility. Although there is always room for improvement, I can assure you that our upcoming tutorials will be even better. If you found this tutorial helpful, please consider leaving a comment and subscribing.